In the last 2 weeks, COVID-related deaths have doubled in Utah. Now hospitals in the state are in danger of running out of rooms in their ICUs. NBC News correspondent Erin Mclaughlin joins us now from Salt Lake City, Utah. Erin, Utah reported 1,500 cases yesterday alone. What's triggering those new infections?
Yeah, that's right, Allison. The governor here says the situation is dire. Public health officials really struggling to get it under control, announcing a new approach just this week that is a data-driven approach that really sort of divides the counties here in Utah based on their transmission numbers, low, medium, and high, focusing specifically on 3 areas to try and flatten the curve, looking at promoting mask wearing, making it mandatory in those areas of highest transmission, looking at public events, making masks mandatory at public events as well, and then really focusing on social gatherings. People here in Utah gathering with family and friends, not social distancing, not wearing masks. They see that as a major source of transmission. Take a listen.
The bottom line is that we have to change behavior as a community. You know, we've heard a lot about herd immunity, which scientifically that concept does not apply to coronavirus. But what we can do as a herd, as a community, is pull together and do the public health initiatives that we know to work: masking, social distancing, limiting social gatherings. The majority of transmission is actually within people's very close circle of acquaintances. It's household transmission. It's in the circle of people that we're familiar with and around whom we're more likely to let our guard down.
Now, what public health officials here are not talking about is they're not talking about shutting things down. They're not looking at businesses. Indoor dining at restaurants is still an option here. Bars are still open in Utah. High school football is still happening. And that's because public health authorities tell me they really believe that it's down to families and friends getting together. And they feel that if they can stop that from happening in large numbers, especially in those areas with high transmission, they'll be able to get things under control.
Erin, how about schools? I know Salt Lake City schools started the year with remote learning, but some districts now have in-person classes. How is that going so far?
Yeah, well, a large number of schools opened here in the Salt Lake City area at the start of this school year, and authorities are saying that's when they saw the beginning of this surge, that it started with the 15 to 24-year-old demographic, high school students, college students. Now, the schools here are still open, although a number have had to shut down due to outbreaks, including the high school in back of me. 15 students tested positive for COVID-19. So classes are now happening virtually for this school, one of 3 schools in this district alone to see COVID-19 outbreaks. So again, the high school football game still happening later tonight. They're concerned about it. Take a listen to what the principal had to say at this school just a short while ago about the outbreak that happened. She says that she is taking a number of precautions here, but she believes the transmission is happening outside of the school. Take a listen.
That our students are doing a phenomenal job at school. They're wearing the masks. They're working to socially distance. The cleaning and the other efforts that are being made are working. Masks, the wearing of masks is very effective. But what happens is what we are seeing is a number of those students will go off of campus and the masks come off and the social interactions within 6 feet for extended period of times are not limited. We see large group gatherings socially and also families.
That was actually the spokesperson for the district, but the principal here at this high school was telling me that she's confident in the precautions they have in place, that she's confident that this school will be able to open in some 2 weeks' time and continue on with that in-class, in-person learning despite the spike in cases that the state has been seeing. Allison?
We hope they see a turn for the better there in Utah. Erin, thank you so much. There are now more than 8 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the U.S., and infection rates are still heading in the wrong direction, with cases on the rise right now in at least 38 states. NBC News senior medical correspondent Dr. John Torres joins me now. So, Dr. John, let's talk about this latest surge. Where are we seeing the biggest spikes, and what's been driving them?
And Allison, you're seeing the biggest spikes around the Rocky Mountain region and the Midwest area. And exactly what Erin was talking about, what we think are driving them are the fact that, especially young adults tend to be getting together. They tend to be going to bars, restaurants, and it's spreading that way. But the other thing we're finding out is these small gatherings are what is happening as well. And those small gatherings are driving the pandemic and these surges right now. And by small gatherings, I mean people with their extended families getting together. And the big concern is, as we come into the holiday season, is that's going to happen more and more, and that's going to drive more of these surges. If you look at Europe right now, they're having a lot of issues. They're having to do some shutdowns and some lockdowns. And like Erin mentioned, instead of globally locking down in certain areas, I think the lesson we can learn here is that we can do these target lockdowns where we can say, okay, in this certain area, we're probably going to need to close bars and restaurants for a while and maybe mandate masks for a little bit. And then we can go back to, basically not doing that, but other areas might need it. And so we're going to have to look and be very creative over the next few months, because I think we're going to see these spikes go up and down. Right now, the Rocky Mountains in the Midwest, they could very well a month from now be the ones that are doing really well, and the coast could be having problems. And so, Allison, it's one of those things that's just going to continue to roll out and move on over the next few months. We need to keep a very close eye on it.
Dr. John, we know our 4 W's, but in case anyone is tired, it's Friday and they've forgotten, let's just refresh. Watch your distance, wash your hands, wear a mask, windows open, the one I constantly forget. But in
Excellent.
last night's town hall, thank you, President Trump said this.
As far as the mask is concerned, I'm good with masks. I'm okay with masks. I tell people wear masks. But just the other day, they came out with a statement that 85% of the people that wear masks catch it. So,
they
this
didn't
is
say
a
that.
very
I know
tricky,
that study.
That's what I heard, and that's what I saw.
So, Dr. John, the president claiming there that a study showed that 85% of people who wear masks catch COVID-19. Savannah caught him there right away. Can you fact check that one for us, please?
And I certainly can. And what's happening here is there's misinterpretation of the actual data and the study. And I could put an equivalent. I could say 85% of people get in car crashes, therefore car crashes are caused by people. 85% of people not wearing seatbelts get in car crashes, therefore car crashes are caused by people not wearing seatbelts. Doesn't make sense. And in this case, what they were looking at is what happens to people's behaviors when they leave their house, particularly when they go to restaurants and bars. And they took 2 different groups. Control group, nobody had gotten COVID-19, to a group that had COVID-19. Both of them, around 70 to 85% of them, ended up wearing masks on both sides. So we can say that masks were not an issue in that area. Instead, the differentiation was that the people who had COVID-19, the people who got infected, were twice as likely to go to restaurants, 3 times as likely to go to bars. And so that's the factor that happened in there. For some reason, he latched on to that 85% that were wearing masks, which is essentially everybody across the board, and said, okay, 85% of people wearing masks, they got COVID, therefore masks are causing COVID problems. That's not the case here. It's simple misinterpretation of data. And again, the data does not show that 85% of people with masks had COVID. It shows that people were just wearing masks and doing what they were supposed to.
Right. It almost sounds like the study was interpreted out of order. When you lay it out there, it makes a lot of sense. Dr. John, thank you so much for doing that. Let me ask you about the latest on the vaccine front. Drug maker Pfizer says it won't apply for emergency authorization for its vaccine, at least until the end of November. We know Eli Lilly, Johnson & Johnson had to pause their trials this week. Where do we stand right now on a vaccine?
And Allison, what that's showing you is that you can't rush these vaccines beyond biology. In other words, when these trials happen, things are going to happen during the trials, which is just biology working its own course. And when that happens, you need to slow it down. You need to pause or hold it for a while, make sure everything's safe, and then restart it again. And we've seen that play out. And the most optimistic projection was President Trump saying by the election. Every expert I talked to was saying that is not going to happen. We're looking end of the year, beginning of next year. And that's exactly exactly what it looks like is going to happen. Again, they're saying Pfizer saying possibly by the end of November they might start looking at the emergency use authorization. Other companies are saying November, end of the year time frame. Allison, again, I can't reemphasize, you can't rush this biology. People have to get the shot. They have to get a second shot sometimes 21 or 28 days later, and then they have to watch them for a little bit after a while. That just takes time.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to rush it. We want to make sure that people are safe, and hopefully this gives people some confidence that the pharmaceutical companies, at least at this angle, are being very safe about it, and that's one of their priorities, Allison.
Yeah, Dr. John, it has been reassuring, at least in my very non-medical opinion, to hear those announcements that they see a problem, they're pausing the tests because they want to look into it, rather than just plowing forward, trying to get a vaccine without understanding what the side effects and the implications are. Dr. John, always great to see you. Thanks so much. Should we run through the 4 Ws one last time this week?
You bet. One more time. So
Windows, I'm going to say Windows first now because it's always the one I forget.
Excellent.
Windows, wear a mask, wash your hands, watch your distance. Dr. John, thank you so much.
Excellent. You bet. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.